All right, good morning,
All right, let's
everybody.
learn some Torah.
All right, good morning. All right, today is, I believe, Daf Kuf Aleph, Masechah Shabbos. So we left off at the bottom line of Kuf Amabeis. So the bottom line, we were discussing a case of somebody's in a boat, and they're not allowed to directly throw from the boat, which is just yachid, out into the Carmelis, into the sea. However, they said, in terms of the wastewater, but you can just basically go ahead and pour it along the side of the boat, and the gravity will take it into the water, and that is not a problem because that's koicho. So we said by koicho, it's not a problem. In other words, it's not his full action, just sort of indirect. Then it's mutter. So where do we see that it's mutter by in a case of a karmelis? So bottom line on kufa days. So when the tamer, so we not what do we say from the time of the Nerbraisa svina ein metaltel noim yiseicha liyam v'loy mina yam l'seicha. When it comes to a boat, you can't go ahead and carry from the boat, which is a reshus yachid, into the sea, or from the sea into the, or from the boat into the sea. Excuse me, or from the sea into the boat. Right? You can't go back and forth between the sea and the boat because one is a reshus yachid, that one's a karmelis. However, Rabbi Huda Omer, Amuka asara ve'ein gavo asara. Let's say you have a boat. Now, inside the boat is 10 tvachim, let's say 15 tvachim, okay? But then the boat has to float in the water, so the boat basically goes down somewhat into the water. So from the outside of the water to the top of the boat, it's not 10 tvachim. However, if you're standing in the boat, right, from where your feet are to the side of the boat is more than 10 tvachim, okay? Now, Amuka asara, so this case was inside the boat is Amuka asara, but outside the walls of the boat are not 10 tvachim above the sea level. You're allowed to go ahead and carry from the inside the boat into the sea, but not from the sea back into the boat. You know, it only goes one way, not the other. So Gemara is very puzzled with this. What's the reason why you can't take something from the sea and throw in the boat? So because you're carrying from a karmelis from the sea into a shesiyachid into the boat. So Gemara says, Miseichel Yam Nami. What do you mean? Also, you have a case of same thing from the boat into the sea. Also, Nami the Tal the karmelis. Aren't you also going ahead and carrying from the shesiyachid from the boat into the sea, which is a karmelis? So Elo Lav Achuda, right? So rather, what the Gemara means to say is no, you can throw it from inside the boat outside. However, not only referring to along the edge, along the side. Indeed, we see here, according to the opinion of Rabbi Huda, that the only way that one is allowed to go ahead and basically empty out his contents into the sea via the wall. So since it goes down the wall, therefore it's mutter. So in other words, we see over here that in the case of a karmelis, even though he's indirectly causing it to go ahead and go into the sea, but since he's only putting along the wall and then it basically flows down the wall on its own, therefore it's mutter, and therefore we see a case in the sea is different. Fine. Omer Rav Huna, says Rav Huna, Hani bitzasa de Mishan. These little boats, these canoes of Mishan, ein metalton behen ella bi'arba. You're only allowed to go ahead, and you're not allowed to go ahead and carry something for amos inside the boat, because the boat is not considered to be a reshus yachid. Why? We're only talking about if the bottom of the boat, within 3 tefachim of the floor of the boat, is not 4 tefachim wide. In other words, what's going on here? The boat is shaped very narrow at the bottom. So since it's narrow at the bottom, it's not dalet tefachim. So since it's not dalet tefachim wide, you don't have reshus yachid, because the reshus yachid has to be dalet with the height of 10. You have the height of 10 here, but the problem is you don't have on the floor dalet, because the floor is like this. And if the slope is that within 3 tefachim of the bottom peak of the boat is not 4 tefachim wide, within 3 tefachim on the ground, therefore this reshus is not considered to be a reshus hayachid. It loses its status of reshus hayachid. But if within 3 tefachim to the bottom of the floor of the boat it is 4 tefachim wide, then it's no issue of carrying inside it. It's a reshus hayachid. However, if you go ahead and you fill the bottom with sticks or reed or something else on the bottom of the floor. So basically, the floor is, in other words, you fill up the little crevice in the bottom, which was the area was less than 4 tefachim. So the floor, basically where you stand, is higher up, and now the area where you stand is 4 tefachim wide. Then that's not an issue because that basically you raised the floor, and now you have a reshus hayachid there. So Maskav Rav Nachman, I v'limud good achis mechitzasa. What about this concept of good achis? Now, good achis means that you have walls. That if you have walls up here, that they sort of quote unquote magically, or I'll use the term halachically go down. So in other words, that these walls extend all the way to the bottom. So now, if you have a boat that goes like this, right, where it starts to narrow out, why don't you say it goes straight? And therefore, these walls, now the walls of the boat, the canoe go like this, and then it narrows in. So instead of going this, and then what actually narrows in, why don't we say it goes here, and then halachically it goes straight down? Because we have a concept of god achis, as we'll soon see. Lema god achis mechitzasa. Milo tani, did we not learn Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda Aimer? Nots kana b'rishus harabim, the rosho tarskal. A guy goes ahead and he puts a pole inside in the Rishus Harabim, is standing straight up. The pole is more than is 10 tefachim. The zorak, the noach al gaba, and then he goes ahead and he throws something on top on the basket. He puts something on the basket. So now you have a pole. A pole is nothing because it's not wide enough. But you have put a basket on top, which is more than 4 tefachim wide. So now, and you throw in there, you're chayiv. You're chayiv. Where's the walls? You don't have, you don't have the walls there, right? You only have the basket on top. So what's the reason why you're chayiv over there? Alma, what do you say there? Because we say the edge of the basket actually halachically goes straight down, even though it's just a pole with a basket on top, right? The pole with the basket on top. We say that the walls halachically come down. So why don't we say this? So in this case also, say in the case of the boat, right, that the walls come straight down. And so why does, even if the narrows, who cares if it narrows at the bottom, right? Higher up, it's wider. So let those wide walls halachically come down. So Master Rav Yosef, have you not heard that which Dam Rav Yehuda Marav, Umat, and some say Mishum Rav Chia, and some says Rav Chia taught it. The Tani Land says that Chamim Paichim. Chaim says over there at Pater. And others, the Chamim argue. The Chamim argue and say, no, we don't say good achis. That's only according to one opinion. So you don't hold of good achis. I have a title in a brayso. Amud b'shus harabim. So amud b'shus harabim. Gavo asara v'rochav dalet. If you have a stand or some sort of pillar standing in the b'shus harabim, and this pillar is a wide, thick pillar, it's 10 tefachim tall and it's 4 tefachim wide on top. Ve'ein b'ikaro dalet. However, the bottom is not 4 tefachim. In other words, it's instead of a pillar, imagine a thick pillar that it just slightly gets a little thinner. It gets a little thinner, so at the bottom, it's not 4 tefachim, it's 3 tefachim, okay? So you have a pillar, and it's not the case. The other case we had was a thin pole with a big basket on top, okay? And that was machlokes good achis. But over here, we're talking about a thick pillar that just, it's a little narrower on the bottom, and then gets a little bit wider on top, where it's 4 tefachim on top. But on the bottom, let's say it's 3 tefachim. The yesh b'kitzer shelo gimel, and there is in the bottom, there is 3 tefachim. It's just not 4 tefachim. The zorak v'noich al gaba, if one goes ahead and throws on top, chayiv. He's chayiv. Why is he chayiv? There, the bottom, it's not 4 tefachim by 10 tefachim height. So alma, what do you see from there? Amin and godachis mechitzasa. We see according to everybody, even according to the Rabbanan, they do hold of godachis that the walls do come down. And now, even though despite the fact that it's not wider on the bottom, we say that the halachic walls on top, when it was 4 tefachim, go to the bottom, and therefore we view the bottom as if you have walls at the bottom, which is 4 tefachim by, with the height of 10 tefachim. So too over in our case, we say godachis mechitzasa. So too in the case of the boat. So the verse says no. How can you compare the two? Over there in the case of godachis, we have an issue. We have an issue of if you have the ability of gadim, of basically young goats being able to walk through the walls, that shows it's not a wall. So in a case of where, let's say we had the basket on top. So since underneath the basket, there was nothing there and a goat can walk through there, therefore it's not a wall. But over here, when you have a pillar, so therefore the goats can't go through. So since the goats can't go through the pillar, even though, yes, maybe they can rub up against it, but they'll be knocking into the pillar. Therefore, in that case, they say godachis. However, hachi, but in our case, but in our case, in the case of the boat, right? So what about in the case of the boats, right? In the case of the boats, you don't have the gedim there. Well, maybe in the case of by the fish, in the case of the boats, yes, you're right. You don't have gedim, goats being able to walk underneath the boat and bump into the walls. Therefore, maybe you say they're good walls. We say no, because you have the ability of fish to swim underneath it, and therefore you don't say that the walls go down to the ground and therefore to the seafloor and make it its own rishus hayachid, because you have the ability, not goats walking through, but you have fish swimming through. Actually, we say that the fish swimming through a wall, right, or swimming through the area and say, oh, it's not a wall, is actually not an issue. And where do we know? How do we know that fish swimming through, we can say, is not considered, is no issue for saying something is good achis? So Marbin mechitza taluya mahu. So we say of a case. So it says if you have a case of a wall that's hanging up in the air, right? So you have a wall in the case of the air. So yes, so mechitza taluya. So you have a wall hanging. Mahu shetatir bechurva. What is the halacha when it comes to a churva? In other words, when it comes to a ruin, right? Let's say synagogue where you have some of the broken walls, and you have some of the walls aren't completely down to the bottom. So what is the halacha there? Do we say that these walls can go ahead and make it can go ahead and make this a do we say good achis in that case? No, we don't have a mechitza materis in a case of when we have a mechitza. By the way, am I frozen or no? Am I good? Because I see people are frozen. Am I okay? Yeah?
You're fine.
All right, good, we're fine. So we say, in the case of in the case of a ruins, right? Do mechitza come down? So he says, "Ein mechitza tuli materis." No, if it's hanging down, since you have things with the ability to walk underneath it, therefore it's not a good wall, right? And then it says there, "Ela b'mayim," only in the case of water. In the case of water, notice if you have walls that don't go all the way down to the seafloor, but we look at those walls as if it goes all the way down, we do say good achis in such a case. Why? Ela b'mayim kal. What's the reason? Just like in the case of ruins, you could have goats walk under. So too in this case, you could have fish swim under. So the answer is rather, we see that is not an issue. So therefore, going back to the original case, it's a good kasha. It's a good kasha. Why don't we say in those narrow boats, the bottom, he says less than gimel tefachim, but according to the opinion, you should be able to say go to achis, and where the walls go all the way down, and you're going to ask, normally walls don't work when you have an animal walk underneath it. That's only referring to animals such as goats, but in terms of fish swimming underneath it, that is not an issue for a good achis, and therefore it would be a shaila as perhaps we should say good achis in this case. Fine. 3 lines from the top. Svinas kshuas. Then we said in the Mishnah, if you have boats are tied to one another, then you're allowed to go ahead and carry from one to the other. So the Gemara says, Pshita, it's obvious. We're only talking about tamatir if there's a third little small boat in between them. You're allowed to carry it from one ship to the little boat to the next ship. So the Gemara says, Amalei Rav Safra. So it says Rav Safra to Rava, Moshe, Shabir Kamarta. Moshe, that's his first name, to Rava. Did you say good? Is this right? It says from this one to that one. Sounds like we're talking about the two main svinos. We're not talking about derech, another boat. We're talking about from this boat to the other boat. There's no boat in between. Rather, maybe we're talking about the halacha says, or the case says you're allowed to carry from one boat to the other. Chiddush is if it's owned by two separate people, then you're allowed to go ahead and make an eruv chatzeros, and carry from one to the other. It would be completely permissible to do on Shabbos. Ukedatanya, as you learn in the Brisa, sfinas kshuros zobazu. If two boats are tied to one another, right? In other words, the issue if they're not tied, then they might float apart, and one might go ahead and carry from a boat into the Karmelis into the sea. But if they're tied together, then we're not concerned. And you're allowed to go ahead and make an eruv chaseros and carry from one to the other. Nifsaku. However, once it becomes broken, if it's a nesr, then it becomes usr. So if the rope breaks and they're no longer attached, Therefore, you're no longer allowed to go ahead and carry from one to the other. Chazu v'nikshu, if they went back and were retied on Shabbos, bein shegig, whether it was done b'shegig, right? Whether it was done by someone who did not realize it was Saturday, or maybe amazed it, or the guy knew it was Shabbos and he basically tied it again so he can carry one again, bein anusim, or whether it was an einus, right? It was completely, it wasn't even his fault. He didn't even mean to tie it, and it ended up being tied, or bein muatin, or even accidentally, right? He meant to tie other things, and it turns out he tied this. Chazru le'tirin harisha. He goes back to his original heter. In other words, that if it was tied in the beginning of Shabbos and there was an Erev Chatzeros, and then it became untied and it somehow became retied again. Anyway, purpose, accident, incidental, doesn't make a difference. The Eruv comes back and one can return to carrying. So too, one who goes ahead and places reeds in the public way, and they separate different areas of the public way to be private, and basically those are their own areas in Shabbos. Maravinu Bataltim Zumzulu, you go ahead and can carry from one to the other. And Niglu, however, if they get rolled up, Nesru, then it becomes Asr because you no longer have the separation. Chazu Parshu, however, if it goes ahead and someone goes ahead and resets it up, right? Bein Shogi, Bein Mazin, Bein Anusi, Bein Muat. And whether it was on purpose or completely, or it was on purpose, or he didn't realize, or it was against his will, or it was accidental. Chazru Hater Harishon. It goes back to the original Heter. Why? Shekol mechitza shnasa b'Shabbos. Any mechitza that's made on Shabbos, bein b'shoigeg, bein b'mezid shrei mechitza. It's called a wall. So in other words, it doesn't matter how the wall got there. Since there's a wall, you're allowed to go ahead and carry it. You don't lose the status just because it left and came back. You still have the status of a wall. So Gemara says, is this true? Eini, is this so? We're only talking about lizrok. In other words, that what you say can go back is only for what the rice is about. Tiltul usher. But in other words, maybe only it's on a deraisa level, but tiltul, even to go ahead and to carry something, is usher, is midrabanan. So the Gemara actually doesn't go over here recognize in terms of throwing and tiltul, because really both are usher deraisa, right? The Gemara oftentimes uses the word tiltul when it just means even midrabanan. All right, midrabanan, now it's even to carry, to move something is usher, because tiltul normally is said by muksa, but over here tiltul is used as basically carrying, but what it really means is even midrabanan l'taltil usher. But really, on a deraisa level, it's okay, but on the derabanan level, we want to forbid you. So we see over here on the derabanan level, we forbid them to go ahead and carry. So even if it comes back up, it sounds like it's no good. And on the rice level, it's okay, but midrabanan, we say it's no longer good to carry between those two walls because the wall was constructed on Shabbos. So ki itamar dav nachmed amazing itamar. That which says is only amazing. No, it's really that what you said before was actually, he argues. We said before, if the wall comes back anyway, then you can go back to being allowed to carry. Says over here, no. If the wall comes back only in the accidental ways, shogeg, or a case of aynes, or mutayin, those cases are okay. However, if someone goes ahead and puts back the wall or reties the boats, b'mezid, that's the case of midrabanan. It is still prohibited to carry from one to the other. And Omar Shmuel says, Shmuel, va'afilu kshuros b'chut hasarbo. Even one goes ahead and uses the boats and ties them together with the thread from a coat. The thread of a coat, the very thin rope, that is still sufficient to call them tied. So the Gemara says, hey, what's the case? If this thin rope is effective in keeping the two together, then pshita, then it's obvious. And if this string or rope that he used is not strong enough to keep the boats together, it will just come, they'll just drift away. So why would it be mutter? It's not connected. It's not effective. It's not a good rope. So our answer is really it is able to hold. However, Shmuel is actually coming to exclude another teaching of his own that he had in a similar case. In other words, for you not to confuse with that case. The Tanah we learn in the Mishnah, maybe they tuma. So if you have, let's say there is a mace in a room. You have a mace in a room and you have a chain going through the room. So now this chain or rope, right, is something that is basically, since it's going through the room, it has since it's metal, as we can see, it has the status of the body. it has the status of the body to go ahead and be metame something as an avatuma, right? Therefore, it can go ahead and make the boat an avatuma if it's tied to the boat, and the boat, those kelim on the boat will become a rishon latuma. So this, something which is tied, maybe the tuma, but davar. So if it's able to hold it, it's strong, then it brings its tuma. It's like an avatuma. It's like the mace itself. However, b'davar shem amida. However, if it's not a strong rope, ein mavila de tuma. Then it does not bring tuma. The Omar Shmuel, and Shmuel says in that, v'hu shekshura b'shashel shel barzal. This is only talking about a metal chain. It's not talking about a rope there over there at all. By the case of tuma, it's talking about a metal chain. Le'inyan tuma. When it comes to tuma, hu dechsiv. It says b'chalal cherev. In other words, when you go ahead and kill someone with a sword, so cherev harid kachal. So when the sword, when the sword, right, is only when the sword over there in that case is similar to the corpse. In other words, when it went ahead and the sword becomes like the person because the sword is metal. Harid kachal. So it says so cherev harid kachal. Right. So in this case, only when it's metal. When it's metal, it's exactly like the mace. Says Shmuel, but it's only by tuma, right? By tuma, it's by the mace. But if it was, let's say, a rope made of material and not a metallic form, then it would not become an avatuma, and therefore the halacha is different. So the halacha over there does not necessarily have to do with the fact that it's able to hold the boats together or not. The halacha over there is when Shmuel says it has to do with the material of that which is holding the boat. If it's chain, then it becomes like the avatuma. If it's just a rope, then it's just like something that touches the tuma, and therefore it would not be matami. Balini and Shabbos, when it comes to Shabbos, we don't care about the material. Kevan diyachal amida, since it's able to hold it, not only chain, but even some sort of thin material, afilu b'chut hasarbel, even if it's a thread from a garment, and if it's able to hold the boats, then that's considered to be connected on Shabbos, and one would be able to go ahead and carry from one to the other. And we'll stop here. Perfect place at the Mishnah. Everyone have a wonderful day, and please stay safe.
Guys, unrelated question. Is anybody looking to go on vacation next week and want to rent a 7-bedroom